Wow. Hi. Cheers.
Cheers.
What are y'all sipping on?
Got a little espresso.
You made it yourself?
The hotel espresso. Hotel espresso.
Oh, they sent it to you.
Dude, yeah.
Nothing like wanting to not expose what hotel you're in.
Who, me? Four Seasons?
I feel like,
Stop.
Stop.
Come get me.
Come
get
on
me.
down.
Get me
my
up out of
God.
here. Listen,
That's
I love
amazing.
Atlanta, but this part of the year gets tedious because I'm home for like a day, but I'm here working like today I have 3 shows back to back to back. So good for me.
Does that
why I don't
include
want
this
to be a
show?
studio. That's why I don't want to be a studio jockey anymore, calling games exclusively.
Oh Lord.
What do you know
the
about
shows I
that?
do are not that bad. I don't do the studio thing anymore, Rich. I just do like X Live and then I record handles, which isn't a big deal. So we just talk the whole second half.
Handles is a studio show, so you're a studio jockey.
No. It is a studio show, yeah. But it's a 22-minute studio show that's fun where you don't have to wear a suit. I just wear hoodies all the time.
All right. Yes. Well, for our new listeners and viewers, welcome to this edition of Road Trippin with RJ and Channing. I'm your host, Allie Clifton, Channing Frye, Richard Jefferson, of course. A little housekeeping before we dive into all things. Don't forget homage.com/roadtrippin where you can get all your Road Trippin swag, hoodies, t-shirts. It's the best fit. It actually reminded me with you being in Cleveland this weekend, Richard, that I need to continue to remind people because our Homage fam is located there. The link is in our bios on Instagram and X, if that's easier for you. So go check it out. How about this? Channing, I got a fun, exciting package this weekend.
Oh, yeah.
Shout out. Rich, I'm sure you got one too. You just
Richard,
don't know.
Where's your package?
We can't show it. We can't show it.
Yeah.
Hey, can you
Allie, don't drink that for a bunch of years.
Can you center up your camera a little bit and like you're looking? Do you know where your camera is located? Because right now you're there. There you're looking at us.
Oh, there it is. Oh, whoops.
Oh, don't do that. Oh gosh.
Oh, here we go.
We've only been recording. Okay, you're getting closer. Okay, now where's your camera?
I'm in the middle.
Where's your camera at?
It's over here.
Okay, so when you're okay, we got it. You look good now. You look much better now. You're not. Oh God.
Thank you, Richard.
we can't have the owner of Chosen Family Wines looking crazy out here. Anything going on with that? What's the latest?
Oh man, God, we're doing so much stuff. We're going to Aspen Food and Wine again this year, which is huge. We're going to be there. We're actually going to be in Cleveland this summer. We're doing the 3-team tour. Cleveland, Columbus, and Cincinnati, doing dinners and fun little parties out there. Going to New York, doing dinners out there. Going to California, also all while being involved in Oregon, like International Pinot Noir Convention, things like that. So it's busy. It's basketball season is winding down. Well, one season is like shooting up. So it's great. It's fun. Still fun. Still good. But yeah, it's been interesting.
When do we enter into some competitions?
We already did.
Oh,
we already did. So
okay.
A writer out of Washington named Owen Bargreen. We got like some wine scores are between basically 90 and 100. 100 is like $500 bottles, right? Anything between 90 and 96, 97, 98 is like really, really good. Depending on the price of the bottle. So he went through our whole collection and all of them got between 90 and then our Cabernet got a 96, which is a huge fucking score. Got a couple 94s, couple 93s.
When do we start throwing that shit on the labels? When do we start throwing that shit on the labels?
Yeah, the label thing is kind of, it just depends. It's hard for me to do that because in the industry, some people make wine for scores. We just make wine of what we like and want to share it. But we'll share it and we appreciate it, but it can't be like our main focus because then we're going to make wine for the scores instead of making wine that we enjoy. So we're trying to be a little bit more artistic.
Oh,
we appreciate it.
I'm learning more, so that's why I like asking questions. So
yeah,
so then how will people be able to find out the quality of the wine as a newer wine brand? Is it like go to your website and it's like, hey, we got this score on?
Yeah. If you go to chosenfamilywines.com.
Oh, okay.
There's plenty of information.
Sorry for the plug. Sorry for the plug. All right.
Wait, Richard, my back's been hurting. Is there any online Soho yoga things I could do?
Yeah, go to SohoYoga.com. We have a Patreon. We have I'm joking.
Okay. You know what's funny about
People
that is we just heard our partners, LeBron and JJ, over on Mind the Game pod, when Bron was asked about his offseason, he threw out, yoga, Pilates. I'm like, is he coming? Like, is he up in Soho? You could have said Soho, my friend.
Look, he probably got his own yoga studio.
He knows me. He knows that if he says Soho Yoga, that will be posted on every social media, tagged with him as a collaborator. All of LeBron's
collaborator.
All of LeBron's success is contributed to Soho Yoga. So,
dude, that's
Rich,
hilarious.
you always have your hands in everything. Anything you want to promote?
Me? No, there's a podcast that we're joining, and starting again with a new company. No, I got nothing, man. I got nothing but these games coming up. I'm excited about these games. Cleveland was dope. Where was I? Boston special. It was cool.
So we're going to dive right into that. But I do want to preface with this. We are recording this on Monday. So as we are talking about these series, every series will have played one more time before this episode drops, which is Wednesday. So just keep that in mind. So we're probably going to do more reacting and kind of looking ahead in that way. But just understand the timing of this recording. It is on Monday. So shall we start with that series?
Ooh, excuse me. You want to get that frog out of your throat?
Tell everybody Allie's sick.
No.
Allie's sick. She's got strep and she's bearing down. She's bearing
Nobody
down
cares.
through every. Yeah. No one cares. But no one cares, but we care. Apparently, Allie's got a little cough. So this is her flu podcast. This is her flu podcast. It's the flu game.
It's my flu game. It's my flu game. All right. So game 4. Excuse me, is in Cleveland tonight. Boston leads 2-1. I did see a tweet that you put out over the weekend, Channing, that you were happy that Cleveland played the way they did in game 2.
Yeah.
Can I also just say, what is it about the weather in Cleveland? Now you've got Jaylen Brown saying we didn't come to Cleveland for the weather, so let's get this done. Okay, modern day Joakim Noah.
Dude. It's so funny.
What?
It's so funny. I saw Joakim and he was like, man, I saw him in Paris this last season. And he was like, man, people in Cleveland still hate me. And then he went on the podcast and explained it was less about the actual Cleveland and more about fucking LeBron. So It's so funny. But he goes, do you vacation to Cleveland? I was like, nah, I don't either. But I do love Cleveland. I love Cleveland. I'd rather be there in the winter with my people. I'd rather be there in the tough of it.
Have you ever gotten a boat and went over to Put in Bay and experienced Lake Erie and did all the things? Put in Bay.
Nah, no. You know what?
So before y'all not Cleveland, okay?
Why is there a y'all? Why is there a y'all? Who is the y'all?
I'm going to Cleveland this summer.
I'm talking about Channing, Jaylen Brown, Joakim Noah. I'm not talking to you, Richard.
I'm going to Cleveland this summer. I'm on vacation a little bit there.
Yeah, it's good for you. And Rich, settle down, Mr. I got a little promo or whatever, the little video tribute.
Yeah, I was waiting for the next one in the second half. I thought it would be like a first half.
Rich, how cracking was it?
Bro, it is different. That was there's very few moments where you miss playing basketball, but when you go into Cleveland 1-1, that crowd, Ryan Ruocco, because again, Cleveland hasn't been on a lot of so Ryan Ruocco hasn't done many games. He took off his thing, was like, yo, it's loud. And I was like, it's different. Even Jason Tatum post game said this is an amazing environment. As far as an intense, and I joke with Ryan, I was like, imagine if LeBron and Kyrie were running out through that tunnel. This thing used to pop off. The building used to shake. And it was Cleveland just has, again, Philly, so when you talk about the best crowds in are in the league, especially in the Eastern Conference, right? The Eastern Conference is different. Their crowds are different than the West. Philly, New York, Boston, Detroit, when those places are jumping, it's a different type of energy than any place else. But there are certain places like Cleveland that I would put Cleveland's crowd above really almost any crowd in the Western Conference. I would put Cleveland above any crowd in the Western Conference, in my opinion, right? Because again, understand this. In Cleveland, give me a crowd that you would say is pops out. OKC, Utah.
On any given night or in the playoffs?
In the playoffs. In the
OKC, it has nothing. So they're like, this is it. OKC is crazy.
OKC is OKC.
You know
is
the
crazy.
teams we're going to mention. It's going to be the small market. It's going to be Memphis.
They're super small market teams. Memphis.
It's going to be the small market.
San Antonio was loud, Richard. San Antonio was loud.
San Antonio's loud. I played against San Antonio in the NBA Finals, and I'm going to tell you,
I played against you.
The game six Cleveland crowd is the single greatest crowd that I've ever been a part of.
Easy
situation. Easy.
I agree with you. I agree with you. And Oracle, like back when Oracle was in the old building.
Oracle,
I guess.
Okay, I will give that caveat. The early years of the Warrior success, where it was still Warrior fans, and they were chanting Warriors the whole
PTSD.
game. That is the best crowd in the Western Conference. That is the best crowd in the Western.
Dude, when they used to play this. When they used to play that,
you put an AirPod in. We can't hear it.
Oh wait, can you hear it?
Oh, the Bay. You're God. Yeah. That's no, but I would say Golden State. When they moved to Oracle, as it became more corporate, their crowd intensity dropped. And they'll admit.
You mean to San Francisco?
When they moved to San Francisco, and as they went, like when the tickets started getting thousands and thousands of dollars. They spaced out those intense Warrior fans because they used to be sold out when they were shit. So that's the one crowd that I would say in the Western Conference at its peak in Oracle, but they're not in Oracle anymore. So Cleveland and Oracle were comparable. And Oracle were comparable. That's in my opinion. So I say to be in there and to have that crowd do what they do, like it goes.
Sacramento gets pretty rowdy. Seems like it gets rowdy.
Sacramento
is
intense. Again, small market.
I'm just saying, Cleveland, in my opinion, is nothing compares, in my opinion, to Detroit, New York, Philly, and Boston. Those four have the most intense, consistent playoff crowds when they are good. Cleveland it's only Cleveland and Golden State. I think Cleveland crowd is better than OKC. I think Cleveland crowd is better than Utah. And now again, I've played against some of them in the postseason. I've never played against OKC or Utah in the postseason, so I've never experienced that. This is just my experience.
What are we watching with this series? Is it more of, because I feel like you listen to whether it's the quotes that came out of Game 3 from Jalen and Jason. Obviously, they're two stars, they're two leaders. In terms of like, we've got to be connected. It's got to be a mental thing, like being locked in. The energy, bringing it consistently. I'm not saying that there's going to be, because I feel like, especially over the course of this playoffs alone, there's been a blowout at some point in some capacity. But is it too late when you're the number one seed and you're being talked about as obviously the contender that they are, that those are the things that you're focusing on? Is that concerning or what are, and then obviously, does Cleveland have a chance?
Go ahead, Richard, you were there.
Rich, you just called the game. Let's start with you.
Cleveland does have a chance. I think when you're talking about togetherness, I think you know how important that is during a championship run, right? So that's what they're focusing on, because it's like, hey, there's going to be outside noise and we're going to lose some games. So let's focus on being together. Some teams you don't have to worry about that with. And I say it in a sense of like, OKC and all of they just seem like they're together from start to finish. Boston they've got Porzingis is new. They got Drew Holiday is new. They got different guys in different roles and different positions. So it's like, we got to make sure that we stay together during this first postseason run. So I'm okay with that conversation. Cleveland only has a chance if their 3 through 6 play well. If 3 through 6 and 7 play well, right, then they have a chance. Peyton Pritchard outscored the Cleveland bench in game 1 by himself. Outscored him. Next game, Karis LeVert outscores the Boston bench. And so when you look at how well Isaac Okoro plays, how well Karis LeVert plays, how well, to an extent, I would say Darius Garland and Evan Mobley are always going to give you something. Right? They're always going to give you something. And even Karis LeVert scored the ball well, but didn't do it till late when the game was kind of like getting to a point of it was out of reach. So if those guys play well, which in every playoffs series and championship, you got to have the 4 through 8 have to play well. And you see that in every series, right? The the Minnesota series, when guys are playing well, Josh Hart, Josh Hart and those guys. Josh Hart is ideally a 4 through 4 and 5 player. He's been elevated to a 3 player, but like Derek White for Boston, the way he was averaging 22 points a game the first 6 games of the postseason, that's a 7-point increase in his average. Karis LeVert had a 7-point decrease in his average. So which team's going to play better?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I just feel like Cleveland, when they don't get stuck just watching Donovan do his thing, and whether certain games, I think you have to realize, and we have to realize, myself, Donovan is just going to be Donovan regardless. He's going to play his game the best that he can, and that's who he is. And he just like everyone else, you do your thing around me, and I'll do me, right? And when Evan Mobley is aggressive, he creates opportunities for himself. And I'm piggybacking on what Richard said. Max Strus, you have to work harder to get open. You have a very good defender on you. Like Karis LeVert, you're going to have a very good defender on you. Like Evan Mobley, you should win that matchup. Like, and I don't care anymore. Like, we got to say, oh, you're this and you're that. You came in with a lot of expectations. You got to give me between 15 and 24 points. Aggressive 15 and 24 points. Like, and Darius Garland, we need you to be a pest, right? Like, you're the smallest guy out there. You're having trouble finishing around the rim, but like you need to create opportunities. Like you're the best screen and roll, like lob threat. So how do you get downhill? How do you take advantage of your mismatch? And then, obviously like Strus and Yang and Tristan and those guys got to be efficient. They have to win their matchup. And then also you can't win when you allow Boston to play their style of basketball. You can't fall in love with that. You got to learn how to win dirty. Like that game that they won, it looked pretty dirty at the beginning and it threw Boston off and Boston couldn't get back on. But Boston is too good to let them get early 5, 6, 7, 8, 13 threes in a quarter, right? Where now they're getting to shoot the threes, the floor is spaced. Now you got to guard them one-on-one in rotations. 5 or 6 dudes have touched the ball, shot 3 or 4 shots. You can't win like that. They're too good. And so for me, I do think Cleveland has a chance, but I think Cleveland needs to lock in and just say, we're going to gross this game up and we're just going to make it not pretty. And if you beat us that way, then you beat us that way.
Does Jared Allen, Donovan Mitchell and Jared Allen Jared Allen is now out, but they were both listed as questionable. I just saw that Jared Allen was shooting free throws at the end of shoot around this morning, but Donovan was not seen when media was let in dealing with a calf strain. So obviously that's something
There's been a lot of calves and hamstrings and things of that nature.
Is that, Richard, is that what he was dealing with too? God bless you. In game 6 in Orlando?
I think that was more of a knee, right? And he's probably,
okay.
Look, at this point in time, everybody's a little banged up with something. But I would say Donovan has done a really good job, I think, of improving his playmaking. Like in the game that they won in Boston. He knows this is where the complex is. He knows that he can't do it by himself, but he's kicking out to guys that are going 1 for 6 and 1 for 5 and this. And it's like, you can't have that consistently. And like they're doing you understand the capabilities of some of these individuals, but it doesn't mean that you can't raise your level. There are too many players around the league that are raising their levels now. So if you have guys around you that aren't raising your levels, it's a bad spot to be in, right? Like we were fortunate when we won our championship, that playoff run, everyone raised their level. Everyone raised their level when it got to the postseason to a man. A man. Defensively, offensively, everyone raised their level. You can go look down the roster and we can point to key moments, key games for every single player throughout the whole postseason. Doesn't matter if it was Delly, doesn't matter if it was Channing, Kevin, myself, Mo Williams, whoever it was, if they got
Dante Jones,
Dante Jones in the fraction of the minutes he had, he legitimately helped us win a championship with the performance that he had in the final few minutes of the first half. Shout out Dante Jones.
Big shout out.
So it's like when you look at that, everyone has to step up across the board at some point in time. And it could be in the finals. It could be in the first round. There were guys that stepped up in that Cleveland series that they're going to need to continue to step. They haven't stepped up consistently. And Donovan can go score 35, 40 every night. So his job is like, the first half of game 2 that they won, he was distributing the ball. He took like 6 shots in that first half because Mobley got it going. Guys were hitting shots. He was and then he's like, then I'm going to be aggressive. That's the game that we see Jokic and LeBron and these guys play, where get everyone else involved, then I'm going to go do what I have to do. But if I'm trying to get people involved and they ain't scoring, what you want them to do? I'm with him on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Kyrie's been doing it.
Yeah, Bron ain't gonna
pass
it to you. How many times Bron gonna pass it to you if you keep missing shots?
No, not too many, homie. You get about 3.
Yeah.
Is there a conversation there, or does he just stop passing it?
He just stops passing.
No, you know it. Yeah,
but Jay Kidd's the same way. Jay Kidd's the same way. Jay Kidd would do it on a fast break, right? Like Jay Kidd would do it on a fast break. Like if you missed a couple of baskets and it's a 3-on-2, I know that ball wasn't coming to me. He was like, you know what I'm saying?
Bitch, please. Okay, so obviously Boston, Cleveland, game 4 is on Monday night. Boston 2-1. You mentioned Jay Kidd. Let's transition to the other game that's happening on Monday night, which is obviously Dallas OKC. Dallas
Channing,
has
what are you doing? Channing, what are you doing? What are you doing?
This is what he does. That's what Never mind. I'm going to keep my mouth shut. Dallas has a 2-1 lead over OKC. I'm going to start this conversation with an interesting tweet that a good tweet that I came across that I thought you guys could offer your own expertise on. This individual may be a part of we may be a part of their company now. So just choose wisely what you say.
Never.
I came across this tweet, and if this person wants to speak up, feel free at any time. Shout out everyone who is still waiting to find out if Luka impacts winning.
What?
Does Luka impact winning in y'all's mind? And there's I went down the comments of this individual that he got, and there was people that until he wins a ring, I don't want to have that conversation.
Then hold up now.
This is I believe this is, by the way,
exclude 90% of the new guys.
I just want your take on Luka impacting winning. And by the way, I believe from what I'm seeing, this person is a Dallas fan. He is a Luka fan.
Who said this?
Y'all are really going to make me chime in on this podcast. Really?
Yes, we're going to make you chime in on the podcast. Was I correct, Jason? You are a Dallas fan?
Yeah. Here.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, okay. If I could just clarify a couple things. Last week,
okay, here we go.
Last week, a publication said some stuff that hit Dallas people a little off, which was basically, why doesn't Luka's impact affect the on-off numbers? And it was sort of like, does he really impact winning? And that's been a thing that people have said to sort of discredit his MVP case, his on-off numbers. They were really obsessed with his on-off numbers. And I said, well, if they do beat Oklahoma City, that's 2 conference finals in 3 years with 2 different rosters. At a certain point, I don't really care about the on-off numbers. But that was my take. You guys discuss. I hate that I had to show my face. Goodbye.
No, dude, this is great.
You're the best. I love it. I think it's awesome because I have enjoyed and thoroughly loved watching Luka play basketball, and I would.
There are things that annoy me about him, right? There are things that I'm like, all right, we
could probably
do less
say that about anyone in the league.
Right, totally.
Yes.
Luka affects winning, I think, individually as a young star. Top 2. The only other person I would put above him is Jalen Brunson. That's to me. You look at the roster construction before the break. You look at the roster construction before, like, Kyrie's been on and off hurt. Now Kyrie's really hitting his stride. But, like, this team was severely under put together. There are big holes that Luka has said, you know what? Don't worry. I don't need a true big man who's a lob threat. I'll take care of it, right? Give me Dwight Powell. We're going to win. Every year that he's playing for Dallas, they are in the playoffs and have a chance to go to the first, second, to the conference finals. You look at a guy like Jalen Brunson, also not playing with another all-star, how he affects the team with the amount of touches that he has. It's rare to get a guy like that constantly has your team in the playoffs and winning series, has opportunities to win series. So Luka does affect winning, and let's not discredit his on-off by being, hey, they just have a a decent bench. Their bench might be different. So, like, it's not a huge runoff when he's out there.
That's a silly. I think when you look at on-off numbers, in my opinion, I think they can be bloated both sides, right? Because then you also look at the why. It's like the non-Jokic minutes. It's like, holy shit, they still have Michael Porter Jr. They still have Jamal Murray. They still have KCP. They still have Aaron Gordon. And one player, so where does that, because that's the point with the on-off. I get it, right? It's like four of the Celtics are in the top 10 because they've been the most dominant team, right? You can make an argument of like, Derek White is more important than Luka. And it's like, because his on-off numbers, and Derek White is like, I think he's top 5. But my point is this: how is it that a team with all of that ancillary talent around Jokic, the minute he goes out the game, and I know there's lineups and but you're saying a lineup of Jamal Murray, KCP, Aaron Gordon, like these guys, all of a sudden it's just like this huge gap in the on-off. So so let's break that down. Is that coaching? Is that not being able to have a system? Is that just guys all too heavily dependent on one player? So to me, if the on and off numbers aren't that gap, that means when they go out of the game, maybe there's quality coaching that allows for them to sustain, and there's not this huge drop off, right? When you have this huge drop off, in my opinion, and we had it with LeBron, you've had it with Jason Kidd, you've had it with Tim Duncan, there should be a drop off of greatness. But especially when you look at the amount of talent that should still be on the floor for the Denver Nuggets when he's out of the game, I think that's to not diminish Jokic. That is a little confusing that they can't extend leads. And, I know the young players go, well, you have to implement a system around that core group, and it has to be implemented often, because it's like, or else you just lean too heavily on Jokic, or you lean too heavily on Bron. It's the same thing. The Bron minutes have always been a thing. But it was like, what's the system when he's out there? He is the system. James Harden is the system. Luka is the system. Jokic is the system. But you can't just say, well, when he's out of the game, there's not as much of a plus. Man, miss me with that. Miss me with a guy that's an entire ecosystem of scoring and assisting.
And one thing you're not even taking into account is his availability, right? Let's use Jokic. We're not even going to use Luka. We'll use Jokic. Jokic plays 75 plus games a year, playing 35 plus minutes. So those little, 13 minutes, maybe what are you going to teach? What system are you going to spend time to teach for 13 on-off minutes? That's 6 minutes a half. So for those 6 minutes a half, you're going to create a whole new system for one guy that may or may not even get those 13 to 14 minutes. You know what those minutes are? Jamal, set screens for Jamal, go shoot until Jokic comes back in the game. Go set pin downs for MPJ, and don't give up this lead, or make sure that it stays the same. When he comes back in, we'll win the game. I mean, it's you can't do too much. Sometimes keeping it simple is the right thing.
I knew you guys knew what you were talking about, so I thought it'd be a great conversation. He's also averaging 23, 10, and 7 in this series in 3 games, and barely playing on one leg. I will follow this up, Channing, from what you said too, in terms of recognizing those that he has around him, and it's okay, don't discredit that, etc. Because Kyrie had the quote, he used his voice very well tonight. He said of Doncic after Saturday's victory, you could tell he wanted to win, and that's what we need from Luka. For us, it's just continuing to feed him that energy that he can trust who he's around, and he can trust that when that ball leaves his hands, other good things are going to happen. No matter if he scores or not, our team is going to win.
Dude, PJ Washington, dude, how did Nico not get GM of the year is crazy, because he's been patient. And now he goes, dude, give me him. I know exactly what I need. And PJ's been, other than these playoffs, PJ's been pretty quiet. I mean, he's been solid, but he hasn't been like this. And then now
56 over his last 2 games, over 50% from 3, 12 of 23 is PJ Washington.
Dude, that's what you want from him. That's why he's there.
Can I compare the 2 superstars really quickly? Because we're going to tie both series together, Cleveland and Dallas. So you got Luka, you got Donovan. Now let's look at the parts next to both of them, right? Kyrie, Donovan Mitchell don't have a Kyrie next to him. What PJ Washington is doing from 3, Ain't got one of them next to Donovan. So I'm saying, it's like, yeah, the elevation of your stars is often who you got around them that can step up in those moments, right? So PJ Washington is stepping up in these moments. Huge. Right now, Cleveland doesn't have a guy that's stepping up in those moments next to them. So that's and PJ Washington on any given night is their fourth most important player. He's the Karis LeVert on their team, right? Yeah. He's the Karis LeVert on their team. If like Karis LeVert had that stretch, it would be 2-2 right now.
Yeah.
Right. That's what I'm saying. If you go look at PJ Washington's season average, you go look at Karis LeVert's season average. They're probably very similar, between 10 and 14 points a game, 15 points a game, somewhere between there. And to have drop-offs and elevations, that's what the playoffs are about. Which superstar is going to play at their level a little bit higher and hit the big plays in the big moments, Jamal Murray hitting game winners, stuff like that. And then which players around them, not superstars, are going to elevate their game. So that's where I'm like, the Cavs, do they have a chance? But they're going to need people to be like PJ Washington. They're going to need people to be like Kyrie around Donovan. Because Donovan is playing as well as any superstar in this league right now, currently. His numbers individually are as good as anybody. But he might, in my opinion, have had the most inconsistent supporting cast of all the teams left.
Donovan
has.
Yeah.
The most inconsistent.
Yeah.
Hold on, I'm thinking real quick.
Because Tyrese Halliburton has had guys around him step up. We've seen the TJ McConnell. And I'm not saying that everyone has played poorly in this for the Cleveland team, but I'm saying they have, in my opinion, not as consistent. Right? And then Jared Allen going out, Evan Mobley has had some really good games, has had some okay games. Then their bench has been inconsistent. That's just the reality. So superstars, we deem so much about the superstars and want to hold their record and their impact on winning. Well, a lot of their impact on winning is how well people raise their levels around them. I will stand by this fact to the core. The reason why we have a good relationship with some of the guys we've played with and why our 16 team is so close and the 17 team is because we had our superstars. LeBron, number one, Kyrie and Kevin. But the guys down the line all did their jobs and raised their levels when it was needed. That's why we were successful. If guys were playing like shit, we would have never, if half of us would have just been okay, we would not be champions. And that's the difference.
And you can literally go back and look at during those stretches we talk about it all the time, whether it was you, Channing, in Atlanta, whether it was you in the Indiana series, whether it was you, Rich, in the finals, various times where your play and on a deep level, like not just minutes here and there, like impactful minutes needed.
Yeah, like a whole game
from you guys.
Games.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to continue on this star chat because obviously, again, as I mentioned, this is coming out on Wednesday if you're just kind of tuning in right now. So another game will have been played, so I don't want to touch too much on the series. However, the MVP was named since our last recording. SGA is a part of this series. It'll transition us into the Denver-Minnesota series. I said it on our Lakers show. I will never take away anything from any MVP. I feel that SGA had a case. Obviously, Luka, SGA, and Luka Doncic and Nikola Jokic were your three finalists. How did the MVP conversation, or obviously the results, come out for you guys?
Do you want me to go first?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
So, first, and I'm on X all the time. This is a regular season award. So Jokic playing crazy right now is not he's one of the best players in the league, if not the best, right? He had an amazing year. He was the best player in the NBA. That is not, to me, the MVP. My criteria for the MVP is who was the main character this year that accomplished the most. If we have to look back, I'm a big story guy. If we look back at this year, are we going to say, oh, okay, Denver was Denver. Jokic had his regular 27, 7 and 8, or 8 and 7, or 8 and 9, whatever he had. No, we're going to say, look at what SGA did, right? Look at how he raised his numbers and raised the level of this young team to go from not in the playoffs to first in one of the toughest Western conferences in history. Since I was on the Suns in 2014 where we won 48 games and we didn't even make the playoffs. That's how tough I think, right? That's how tough I think this Western Conference was. He was the main character this year. You have to reward that. right? You can't just say, oh, you're the best player, here's MVP. Or else Kobe should have had 7. LeBron could have had 20. Shaq should have had 9. Jordan should have had all of them during his years. That's not what MVP is about. At some point, like the people who have a vote should vote for, man, what was this year about? And is this like the true story of the NBA this year? And OKC was. And it's the truth during the regular season. Regardless if you're looking at this stat or that stat or this guy and that guy, you got to look at like who is the best player. And those 3 best players was Luka, SGA, and Jokic. Then you say, who's done this? Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Who's done this? Well, Jokic, he's a great player already. So his step was maybe, boop. Was it? Or was he just being Jokic? And then you look at SGA's step, was this much. Now, to counter my part, I get it. You chose Jokic. I get it. He's the best. He's the man. The fact that SGA got that little amount of first place votes was disgusting. Is this guy, like, what are you watching? Somebody voted for Giannis, and I'm not talking crap about Giannis, but they obviously were not watching the same year. Giannis was 5th, if that, maybe 6th. He should have been behind Jalen Brunson for MVP. And you got him first for a pick? It's like, what? That's what's sickening. Like, what did you see that Giannis Antetokounmpo needs? The most underachieving team this year got a first place vote over SGA that took a team with not even an all-star, not even a close to an all-star to be first in the West. Come on now. Like Luka and Jokic, we don't need to argue because, hey, all of them I would have been fine with. But dog, voting for those other guys, your vote should be revoked.
I'm going to give you a few numbers here, and then Rich, you can take over just to support kind of what you were saying with SGA as well, because this was my case for, he certainly did have a case. 57-25, obviously it came down to a win or whatever that separated the Denver Nuggets and Oklahoma City. But when you're talking about in the complexity of just this season alone, going from the 10 seed to the 1 seed, it's the first time a player had ever averaged over 30 a game and been the number 1 seed in the West since 1967 and not won an MVP award. Like, that's unheard of. 30 points on over 54% shooting from the field. And so I think when you're talking, Channing, about just like that level of when it comes to this season alone and the work.
The regular season.
Regular season.
Come on, how do you not reward that?
To kind of see those numbers.
Small market guy. Ugh.
Rich.
The reason why I think the new modern big man, the numbers are just so crazy when you look at Giannis, because he's big, and not because he's big, but because of the collection of things he's able to do, the points, the rebounds, the assists, the blocks, like all of that stuff. Same with Jokic, doing all of it. Same with Embiid, all of these things. I think very similar to how it had been a long time since a guard has won Defensive Player of the Year, because we're just like, oh, it's
Marcus Smart.
But I'm saying, but before that, it was Gary Payton. So we had that whole stretch. We had that whole stretch of, it was Ben Wallace 4 times, Dwight Howard 4 times. It was, it was always been, Marc Gasol. It was
Tyson Chandler.
Morning, Tyson Chandler. So it's like all of this. So it's like, so we have, I think, diminished the importance of the guard position defensively, but we see how important Derek White is. We see how important you can be the Defensive Player of the Year and not lead the league in shot blocks. Like, we were talking about the importance of Wemby, and he's going to win the next 5 or whatever. So I say that the guard position has been diminished from a level of importance, right? From a level of importance. Yeah. And I think you see it here. I think he also, I believe, led the league in steals. So when you look at like a two-way player, he leads the league in steals. He finishes number 1 in his conference. He scores 30 points a game, and he doesn't get as much consideration.
Second youngest team in the league.
Yes, and the second youngest team in the league with the biggest jump. Jump from seeding in the league, and we're
with no all-star caliber players.
Yeah, and so
like Jamal Murray's an all-star caliber player. Aaron Gordon's an all-star caliber player.
I think there is some lazy voting. I think there is some safe voting. And SGA was not a sexy pick; he was the intelligent pick. Jokic, there is no right answer. If Luka would have won the MVP this year, okay. If you would have had some arguments both ways. If Shai would have won the MVP, you could have had arguments both ways. Same with Jokic. So when I say that there is no right answer, I think sometimes people went with the safe pick, and Jokic was the safe pick. Was he, if you broke it down and you put 10 people in a room, if you put 10 writers in a room and everyone made arguments and everyone polled and talked about it like a jury and walked out, I truly believe that SGA most likely would have won the MVP, because Jokic won 2 MVPs because he had these amazing numbers. His plus minus was crazy, and they were still making it to the postseason with all of their players injured. That sounds very similar to Jalen Brunson. That sounds very similar to Jalen Brunson, who finished number 2, right? In the Eastern Conference. So to have SGA make that jump with number of teams, if you start laying it out, I just think people were afraid. That's why they always say you got to be close your first time, and then they'll give you the next one. But it's like your resume isn't as impressive the next time. Jokic's resume wasn't as impressive this time as it was. I think Jokic's best year might have been last year, when Embiid won.
For sure.
So that's where I'm saying it's like we have these conversations every year, and that's why they should have an offensive player of the year and they should have an MVP. If someone had an amazing offensive year, then you also had an MVP, right? In my opinion, they're 2 different things, right? But people will tie them in because they'll say offensive numbers, right? But you can look at SGA and say, well, he did this and he was number 1. So now in the years that Jokic won the MVP and they finished, I think it was 4th and 6th maybe, right?
Yeah.
He won those MVPs. This year, you look at SGA and where they finished, and it's like, well, we're not going to. Well, it was only 1 game. So no, they finished 1. They finished number 1.
Yeah. Oh, but you turned your voting in 4 weeks ago.
They finished number 1. No, don't. They finished number 1. OKC was in number 1. They were in number 1 when the voting was going on. Denver was moving up. Minnesota was a part of the mix. And so number 1, you don't think number 1 was important? Look at what's going on with Minnesota. That's where you get rewarded for the work. Look what's going on with Minnesota, Denver. OKC, Denver, they were like J. Cole. We don't want no smoke. We don't want none of that. Let y'all boys battle this out. We'll be on the other side. We're going to deal with Dallas. Dallas is playing well. We're not saying that they're going to make it. We're just saying you definitely didn't want to be a part of that Minnesota-Denver series.
You know who took the smoke? The Los Angeles Lakers. More on that later. We're not talking about that until September. Just kidding.
Who's going to be a Laker coach? Can we talk about that? Who's going to be a Laker coach? Jeez.
Ayo.
Oh,
stay out of LA.
Okay, can
right now,
this?
There's only one guy.
Why do we?
Who's the one guy?
Oh, you know it.
Is it possible to have a boss and is he my boss now?
He's definitely not our boss. Make no mistake. I
got one boss. That's Jesus.
Yeah, Jesus.
Yeah.
Hell no. Thank you.
Boss.
Got a
yeah, right.
Okay.
There's a reason why he keeps using the term partner.
He does or you do?
He does.
Oh, okay.
I'm curious.
I'll be ready for that first interview, though, if he becomes the head coach.
Allie and Richard, I got a question. What is it about? And this is going to be my hater moment of the day.
Oh,
what
is
your
first hater
about
moment
coaches?
Of the day? Your first hater.
First one.
Okay.
What is it about recycling coaches that have had success places, never almost got fired, and then you think oh, I can do this, I can make it work. Like Budenholzer, solid. Yes, he won in Milwaukee, but he was literally about to they were booing him in Milwaukee as the Bucks were winning, right? He was in Atlanta. He had really good years, kept getting drubbed in the playoffs by everybody, or more like Cleveland. He goes to, I don't know what Phoenix thinks is going to happen differently that didn't happen in Atlanta, in Milwaukee. I'm
going to be honest, this is a question that I should have asked you guys because only you guys have the answer to it.
I just don't get it. I don't get it.
I think there's only a certain amount of people on the planet currently. Like I said, it's harder to be a head coach in this league than it is to be a player. It's harder to be a coach in this league than it is to be a player because the positions, there's less of them. So I think there's only a few people that have proven that they can actually coach, and you'd rather go, with the devil, It's like, let's look at but Channing, let's take a moment. Let's take a moment and look at any coaching position. And when you talk about recycling coaches, just real quick.
Right.
Who are the top? Give me top 4. I won't make you go a top 5. Give me the top 4 coaches out there that don't have, that you feel can coach Hall of Famers.
Right.
That can coach a playoff caliber team, that can coach a team that could possibly have potential playoff, like deep run, like possible championship. Are there 4 coaches out there that you believe? Let's not do the recycling. Let's not do the recycling then. Who are 4 coaches out there that you believe exist?
Well, I don't know. Here's my thing. I don't know like assistant coaches, but I know there are programs that I would look at to take a chance, because here's my thing. In Phoenix, you got to bet on a coach where you're going to say, this coach is going to be here for 5 years, regardless of you, KD, regardless of you, Book, because he's going to build a culture for us for the future, right? And the big 3 thing, I think obviously you're going to try it, but if halfway through the season it doesn't work, you're going to blow it up anyways. So for me, I would have gone with, obviously San Antonio has always a roster of great coaches. I think there's some coaches, young coaches in Orlando that I think are very solid. There's some good coaches, and the assistant coach from Minnesota, I would have waited for him. There's some good coaches in Golden State, right? I think you got to look at like what style of basketball do you want to play? And to me, I would have looked at those style of basketball to play and bring in those coaches and say, hey, this guy is going to lead us this way. You can get the best coach possible and he's still going to fuck up. So you might as well get a coach that you go, we want to build through you. Like Kenny Atkinson was in Brooklyn. He had all those good guys. They blew it up. He went with the young guys and then he built it back up. And then they went and got somebody else and it messed up.
I know you're Channing, to your point. I think we're kind of agreeing. I think we are agreeing. I just think that I get why these coaches get multiple opportunities, but a lot of times when you want a coach to prove it, think about T. Lue won a championship and the Lakers still tried to give him a terrible deal. And he was like, forget that. And then he goes to the Clippers and they're like, oh shit, he can coach. And all of us, me, you, Bron, we're like, yes, I'm telling you, we all had been telling you that T. Lue, we were all astounded with his intelligence, his strategy, his focus. To a man, I've had great Popovich. You've had great coaches. We've all had coaches. I'm sitting here like, this motherfucker T. Lue can coach. So when the Lakers coach his ass off, and when the Lakers were messing around, he was like, all right, peace. And then try to not give him the offer that he felt. So the Clippers got him. Now he's with the Clippers, and now everyone's like, man, T. Lue can really coach. And now the Lakers are like, you can get T. Lue? Clippers are like, we're going to sign him to an extension. And it's like, yes, we told y'all he could coach. But that's the thing, is that there's not, I don't think that there are in a space of we're going to develop coaches the same way we develop players. And they're running at this cycle of coaches is running. But again, we're going to see Mike Malone, eventually every coach. Mike Malone might stay there. In 5 years, he might get fired. He'll get another coaching job. JB Bickerstaff, he'll probably, like Jamal Mosley has now proven to a stand, he will get another job, right? Because once you prove that you can do it, that's where it gets. Like even JB and the struggles that they've had with Cleveland, they've gotten 10% better every year. Didn't make the postseason. Made the postseason, got swept, made it to the second round, won a game in the second round against the best team in the league. So it's like
injuries really fucked them, by the way.
Yeah. If it doesn't work out in a year or two with JB, we all would sit up here and say, yes, he's going to get another job. Like in 4 years, they got better every single year. He can walk into any GM in 3 years and say that, and they're like, well, fuck, his resume says it. Jamal Mosley developed all his talent.
Yeah,
he's going to get another job. So that's where the recycles come. You got to start in Charlotte. You got to start in Detroit. A lot of these places you start, prove that you can do it, then you'll get a part of the recycling.
Did you guys see DeJounte Murray's tweet?
What did he say?
What did he say? Get me out of here?
No, it was on 5/9, which I believe is the same day Frank got fired. And I don't know if it was just about that firing or just kind of like a culmination. So I don't want to speculate on his context here, but he did tweet, "It's crazy how coaches get blamed before the players." Do you agree?
Yeah. They know it.
Yeah.
We all knew it wasn't Frank Vogel's
feeling
fault,
around it, I guess, but it's crazy.
You can't give somebody bad ingredients and say, make me a 5-star meal. Right?
I love when you go to food. I love when you go to food.
I'm really hungry. I haven't eaten yet today, but I haven't also done my cardio. So, my walks. That's how I walk, Richard.
No, I feel like that's a topic that we can expound on. And
they're stuck in between.
So maybe we can.
They're stuck in between.
Yeah.
Their coaches are the ones, they're the middle child, right? Mm-hmm. They're stuck in between. Aww. They're stuck in between.
And middle children.
Right? Because GMs and presidents are like, it ain't me. The players, they're like, he's not doing a good job. So which one is it easier to replace? A GM president? No. Players? Yeah, you can trade players, not stars. Stars, they're economies. We've talked about this. They're a full economy. So if you're going to trade away an economy coaches are the first ones that are going to get blamed. Always have been, always will be. Let's not change that dynamic. It's just a reality, and those motherfuckers sign up for it. They always sign up. It's not if you're going to get fired, it's when you're going to get fired.
Shout out to the middle children. Don't turn your backs on us. You're always going to need us. Always going to need coaches. Okay, really quick before we wrap this up, just quick thoughts. These last two series are playing tonight as this is dropping on Wednesday. Denver, Minnesota, Knicks, Pacers. You guys have 4 minutes. Just tell me everything you want to talk about when it comes to these games. Richard, I hate the fact that I'm going to have to say you were right after game 2. When you said that down 19, not only could Denver win game 2, but they could win this series. Obviously, they didn't win game 2, but man.
I will say, I was very wrong about a lot of things.
How many times do you admit you're wrong, Channing?
Oh, a lot. I live in a house with 4 women, so
yeah, touche.
It's daily.
This is my thing. I have a lot of respect for them as champions. I have a lot of respect. And I saw them, we talked about it. The Lakers were the worst team for the Denver Nuggets to play. They were the worst team because it was like, we got these boys, right? We got these boys. It's kind of like when we talk about, we played Toronto and we had won 10 in a row. And we went up to Toronto and fucked around and lost 2 in a row, right? Lost 2 in a row.
We, the South, are going to be fine.
We were like, oh, this is a little dicey, guys. We need to kind of turn this thing back up. You can get too comfortable and then get punched in the mouth. And that's what happened. And that's where I think Jamal Murray, and we saw him lash out in game 2 and all, they were rattled. They took a deep breath. The best thing that happened to them was I think there was 2 days in between the game. They took a break, they reset, and then they were champions again. They were the dominant team that we had seen. Jokic was a dominant player. They figured it out. They did that. Is this series over? No. But I said this. All the pressure was on Denver in game 3. All the pressure was on Minnesota in game 4. Because now, if you missed that out, you've blown away. You had a 2-0 home court lead. That got blown away in 2 games, eaten up. Yeah. So now, Denver, I still stand by. The pressure then becomes on Denver. The pressure becomes on Denver in game 5. They got to win game 5. If those boys go back, and Denver now, because they'd never lost a home game, they are in the last the last 2 years of the postseason. So now they feel like, oh shit, we're not invincible. We don't just get to casually walk in to a home game. But the Lakers were the worst team because they had their number. They were down every game. They came back. They didn't learn any of those lessons. And then they came against a young, hungry team that was more talented and punched them in the face. That's all that happened. That's all that happens. And now those boys were like, oh, we need to figure this out. Because if Denver would have shown up for one of those games, we could have been looking at a 3-1 right now. And all the Anthony Edwards, we could have been looking at all that stuff. So I look at that series and I stand by it. I don't know who's going to win this, but I thought whoever won the game last night is the team that was going to win the series. I thought that, and we'll see. Denver, again, I'm not going to count out Anthony Edwards, and I'm not going to count out Jamal and Jokic. I'm not going to count them out. But I think the momentum and the energy is full on Denver. And it's for Minnesota to have to take it back now because any momentum that they had is completely gone.
We got to wrap this up. But Channing, I want you to give your take really quick on the Knicks Pacers.
I think it goes 7. I think the Knicks play such a short rotation. The early game screwed them on how long it actually takes your body to recover. I've never seen Jalen Brunson shoot like that. I think the series goes 7. And then one thing on the Minnesota series, I think they need to play slow-mo less and play a smaller, quicker lineup. Gobert's getting chewed up by Aaron Gordon. And if Aaron Gordon's giving you 25, you have no fucking chance on earth to win a game. So with slow-mo, you can switch all 5 with Cat, Naz Reid, slow-mo, Ant, and Jaden McDaniels. And I think in game 2, when they did that, it threw Denver off a little bit. But I think when Gobert's on the floor, they just, I don't know what it is. He's defensive player of the year, but they don't have no respect for him. So, like, it's different. So I think they need to throw that smaller, more mobile lineup out there more so that they can switch and make Denver play one-on-one. Because right now, Denver is, it's just crazy to watch. So they need to mess up their rhythm.
Aaron Gordon, bear down. I see what you did there.
Bear the fuck down.
All right. It's another edition of Road Trippin'. See you next week.
We out.